What's up guys, Rob the Awesome here, and today we're going to take a look at the compilation of soldier melees that the game has to offer, and deciding which is the best and which is the worst. Let's go! Before I start, there are certain things you should know before watching. These guys don't just focus purely on the stats, we also focus on the psychological portion of the weapon as well, and how it affects both the user of the weapon and the victims against it. So keep that in mind while watching. Another thing is that if a weapon isn't listed in this video, then the only reason for that is because it is a reskin of another weapon. End of story. Lastly, I advise people to read the pinned comment at the top of the comment section to understand what these guides are about and what my intentions are when making them. It's important to understand the reasoning for why I do these guides and grasp the bigger picture for past, present, and future best and worst videos. Alright, we good? Here we go. Like always, let's start with the stock shovel. This amazing state-of-the-art digging tool is the latest and greatest handheld contraption that is sure to scoop out the brains of your pea-brained opponents. What makes the shovel so great? It has the ability to do 65 damage per swing, just like any other melee weapon in the game. Wow, amazing! In all seriousness though, damage is great and all, but in terms of melee weapons, a soldier should be focusing more on utility than on the damage. When it comes to pure blood damage that soldier can achieve, your rocket launcher matched with your secondary are all you need to stack up those sweet kills. What a soldier needs to balance everything out is something that he can use to help out his team or even himself to a greater extent than just doing plain damage. And the soldier's melee slot is perfect for doing just that. You know what they say, the best melee weapon is often not a weapon at all. Don't get me wrong, melee weapons can be a fine thing for cleaning up damage, but mixed with the soldier's slow movement speed and easy to hit body, melee weapons weren't meant to be a run and gun with a class like this. There will be melee weapons in this lineup that have cohesion with the typical soldier playstyle, and some that make a huge difference in both utility and damage alike. With 65 damage per hit and nothing much else going for it, we'll put this weapon right in the middle and go from there. Sticking with the theme of damage, but in a good way, is the Market Gardener. This slimmer and trimmer looking shovel offers the ability to achieve full-on critical hit damage while the wielder is rocket jumping. This gives the soldier a potential option while in mid-air to do a total of 195 damage in a single swing. However, the melee has a 20% slower firing speed, giving it a skill gap in order to achieve massive damage while in the air and not making it a better stock shovel while grounded. Lastly, it has no random critical hits, which in the long run ultimately doesn't matter. So let me get this straight, as you're descending from a rocket jump, if you hit people before landing, you can instantly kill 7 of the 9 classes and drastically bring the other 2 closer to death? That's insane! Especially when your rocket launcher can easily make up the rest of the damage in a single rocket. Not to mention, with the immense amount of damage up front, you can build banners really fast and switch to primary and secondary options before they even get a chance to turn around. I understand that I coined utility over damage, but with damage like this, it certainly makes it a devastating contender to what utility has to offer. The utility in this case is that it's another option for the soldier to provide massive damage without being brutally noticeable. Rocket jumping is just an everyday part of what a soldier does, and if you decide to jump to the nearest opponent, you have another option to end his life a whole lot quicker. Even the 20% slower firing speed on the weapon isn't that bad of a downside. It's not like as a soldier you're gonna go all willy-nilly and try to hit people with your incredibly low movement speed. It's just not gonna happen. It's a one-hitter quitter. You get it, or you don't, and then you can move on and switch back to your other weapons. The Market Gardener provides massive damage, is stealthy, pairs well with the rest of your arsenal, and with downsides that are pretty much non-existent in battle, what could possibly be considered a bad thing with this weapon? That's where psychology comes in. As great as everything is made out to be, the massive damage isn't guaranteed. On top of having to hit your opponents, you need to predict their movements and land in the proper place for the melee to register. Not to mention, with the slower firing speed, the hit isn't instant and takes a bit of getting used to from other melees in order for the swing to actually land. Mixed with the fact that it's not hard for the enemy to dodge a rocket jump heading straight towards them, and that you land in very dangerous territory if you attempt to land the swing in the first place, and you get a whole lot of unnecessary trouble. It's very situational when you get to pull this weapon out, even if rocket jumping is very common. The safer option is usually to bomb in from a distance and do massive damage with your rocket launcher anyways. But if anything, this weapon gives you another option to pretty much insta-kill anyone going against you, and doesn't punish you for having that option safely in your back pocket. Because the awesome damage trade-off for very non-existent downsides and the awesome +1 option utility that it wields, this weapon goes above the stock shovel. 20% slower firing speed really isn't that slow, and the stat itself ultimately doesn't matter for a slow-moving soldier. In reality, the slow firing speed teaches soldiers what not to do with their melees, and overall promotes good habits on how to properly use a soldier melee for damage. Now that we've cleared up just about every shovel available, let's go in depth on a nail stuck to a piece of wood, or as people like to call it, the pain train. This multi-class tool, that is also usable with the Demo Man, somehow gives the user a +1 capture rate that he can use to cap objectives twice as fast. The best part? You don't even need to bring the weapon out. Score 1 for utility. The downside to having such a nice capture ability is that you'll also have a 10% bullet damage vulnerability, making you squishier to oncoming scouts, heavies, and snipers that might want you dead. And as much as you'd like to hear the words, but only while active, this too is also a genuine stat that sticks on the soldier without needing to bring the weapon into fruition. Right off the bat, the extra bullet vulnerability kinda scares me. 10% extra damage from scouts, heavies, snipers, and shotguns? How devastating! Despite the fact that a majority of the classes have a bullet option one way or another, what does 10% more bullet damage on yourself actually do? If a scout does a 100 damage meat shot, with the pain train equipped, he will instead do 110 damage to you. 10 extra damage? Is that it? Logically speaking, the max potential income of damage you can survive before dying is 182 damage, since 10% of 182 is 18, which gives you the soldier's overall health. That's still a lot of life you can manage, and if the reason you die is because of the extra bullet vulnerability, then chances are you were probably going to die anyways. So that's good. If we see that bullet vulnerability is a -18 health on the wearer, but only against bullet classes, then it's really not that bad at all. Especially if you have a medic constantly pocketing you or a battalion's backup. There really shouldn't be any problems. But what about the upside? Despite the fact that the downside isn't the worst thing in the world, is being able to capture objectives twice as fast any good whatsoever? The max cap rate for a majority of the game modes is 4 people, but once you get to 3 on the objective, the differences between that and 4 are very minuscule and really don't matter. So for the subject of team composition and overall strategy, we'll say that the more realistic max cap rate is 3 on point. On those terms, a scout with a significantly lower health compared to the soldier and an already doubled capture rate should be in the back capping with a potential +1 while the rest move forward. The soldier has high damage output and super high mobility. He should be moving along with the combo, or by the flank, to take on whatever's ahead, while the scout and the +1 move on to cap the objective. Realistically, when people think objectives, they think control points, but it also refers to the payload as well, while Koth is a whole nother story. What soldier should be sticking around the cart? It's not a thing you should be doing and hurts the team with the potential damage and setups you could be providing in the long run. And King of the Hill? Soldiers should be trying to focus on the flank instead of capping the point. The map is so small, even a heavy just needs to make a quick jog up to the point. You need to protect the combo from anybody entering the flank routes. The Koth control point isn't exactly your role. So what about standard control point maps? That's a more realistic game mode where soldiers tend to capture and extend to capture back-to-back points for their team. Sure, you can 2x on the point with a buddy for the strategic 3x max cap rate, but the difference between a 2x and a 3x is only differentiated by, no kidding, around 2 seconds at mid, 1.5 seconds at second last, and 0.5 seconds at last. That's the major game-changing ability the pain train wields? An extra couple of seconds of capping? That doesn't really sound worth it at all, even if the downside isn't so bad. But what if it was just you capping? The difference in 2x capping from 1x capping differentiates 7 seconds at mid, 5 seconds on second last, and 1.5 seconds on last. So the capture rate shines when you are alone for the potential back cap or whatever, but when you think about it, when does the soldier go gun-ho without being seen and doing everything that he does by himself? Soldiers rarely go for back caps, and he's usually too slow on foot or too noticeable rocket jumping to be seen doing that anytime soon. It can happen, but not really. It's more probable to see him capping with people than without, and the 0.5 to 2 second differences between 2x and 3x doesn't show promise. Because the upside isn't as superior to the downside, despite the downside being not as bad as what people think, and the fact that the downside can't be controlled with such an unlikely situational upside, this weapon goes below the market gardener. This weapon isn't bad at all. The downside is hardly there, and the cap rate could definitely be seen as a great thing for winning games. But overall, and in a more objective sense, the upside is far too situational to be used in a soldier's hands, and can be just as unnoticeable and unrealistic as the downside itself. Pretty impressive for a piece of plywood, wouldn't you agree? But you know what's even more impressive? A freaking ninja sword! Or should I say, the half Zatoichi. This crazy samurai steel is also multi-class that goes hand in hand with the Demo Man, just like the Pain Train, only on opposite ends of the spectrum. On kill, the user receives 50% of their base health back, an awesome reward for staying true to your melee in order to finish them off. But like a long distance relationship, the half Zatoichi will truly test how dedicated and loyal you are to the cause. As a downside, an honor bound system is set in stone when using this weapon, meaning you'll have to get the kill and be free of charge or suffer the consequences. The consequence in this case is dealing 50 damage to yourself if you decide to sheath your sword, giving off an essence of risk and reward for getting that distant kill. Because it is a sword, it also has increased range, holster, and deploy, giving you a lot more room to hit people and a slightly longer time to pull out the weapon and put it away. Lastly, the half Zatoichi has no random critical hits, which we all know doesn't matter in the long run. We should understand by now that a soldier is really slow, and dedicating yourself to the melee weapon can be a difficult thing in terms of damage. If you can get the kill off, you'll get 100 health back, or 110 with the battalion's backup, which is nice, but in a more open sense, you'll most likely take 100 plus damage just to get the kill in the first place. You're basically trying to get a kill, so you won't need to take the 50 damage for senselessly unsheathing. At this point, I would rather just stick with anything else. This seems like a major trap I don't want to get myself into. But that's just in terms of battle. Utility shines over damage. What can this self-harming katana do that can help you or your team to a greater extent? Because you can do damage to yourself, the sword can be of great use for building uber with your medic. By constantly going back and forth with your melee, you can consistently do damage to yourself to maintain those sweet heals. However, because this is a sword, there is a slower holster and deploy time. You need to have the sword fully out in order to take the damage. This slows down the back and forth sessions and can be slow enough for medics to fully overheal you before you take off more health. You need to time it perfectly in order to functionally and continuously get max uber charge rate, which can be another thing to think of when you can just hit yourself with a rocket. At least damaging yourself with a melee is something that doesn't have you wasting your ammo and making sure you always have a full clip, giving it another upside in of itself. But that's not all the slower holster and deploy does with this weapon. The slow switch speeds are also good for maintaining a continuous train of thought. You won't take 50 damage for unsheathing the weapon until it is fully out. That's right. You have time between each switch to maintain a strategy and make the choice on whether or not you can go for the kill. Even amidst mid-air or in close quarters combat, if health is a serious issue and you think you can go for it, you have the time to make the choice instead of forcing yourself to go at it. The half Zatoichi gives you some options and some utility for any and all soldier use, and it's under full control of the user that wields it. The utility may not be the best thing in the world, and getting health back is super situational, but at least those utilities and the full-on control are better than a piece of plywood with extended cap rate and a mellow downside. Because of this, this weapon goes above the Pain Train. Like I said, the self-damage may not be the greatest utility in the world, but keeping a full clip while building uber and having full control can be helpful and really useful in a load of situations. There have been a ton of crazy melees all across the board, so let's tone it down a bit with some more realistic army man melees. Melees like the escape plan. The whole idea with this candy pickaxe is that your movement speed increases as your health decreases. The more injured you are, the faster you'll go. When you have the weapon out, the extra speed can be used to escape danger, do fast rollouts, and especially try your luck in surviving onslaught attacks. As great as it sounds, this ornate speed ability comes with some tenacious downsides. In accordance to having it out for the speed, you are also marked for death while the weapon is active, giving the enemies a free mini crit damage modifier to easily wipe you out as you try to gain distance. And if you thought that was bad enough, there's more. The soldier also receives 90% less healing from all medic sources when active, meaning you'll have to put it away if you are to get any of the abundant healing from your lovable doctor. Everything about this melee just screams utility. There's nothing damaging about it whatsoever. I mean, you could use it to try and kill someone, but that mark for death would be the end of it if you tried. The escape plan is simple and straightforward. When low on HP, use it to run away or during a rollout. It gives you a grounded and less damaging option of escape than rocket jumping. It's not called the escape plan for nothing. When low on HP, you can't exactly injure yourself with a blast jump to get away. Not to mention you're super slow on foot, making you a sitting duck just waiting to get picked off. The grounded attribute of speed this weapon provides helps in abolishing the soldier's slow movement weakness and being really hard to pick off when you're running at the speed of sound. Well, not that fast, but you know what I mean. Sometimes you might get picked off with the extra damage modifier on yourself, but it's better than just sitting there waiting to inevitably get picked off. You don't necessarily even have to use it at very low HP. Using it at 121 to 160 HP gives you a 10% increase in speed, which is still a significant sum. Using it at 81 to 120 HP makes you faster than a demo man, a 20% speed increase which is invaluable for escaping all the same. When you hit the 41 to 80 health marker, you'll end up being faster than a medic with a 40% speed increase. That's incredible even for those standards. And on rare occasions, if your health is below 40, you'll end up being almost as fast as a scout with a 60% speed increase. At that point, you're gonna go flying and be able to gain distance in no time. It doesn't matter if your health is as high as 160 or as low as 15. No matter the health, you'll see a significant change in speed that will get you out of any and all circumstances. It's a must-have for most situations and can be a lifesaver wherever you go. But is the speed really all there is to this weapon? Sure, the speed is great, and certainly transforms one of the soldier's biggest weaknesses into a strength, but it must be super situational. Well, not only does it have the speed attribute, but the 90% less healing from medic sources as well. This weapon, like the Half-Stat Toichi, has an uber building property that you can use to help medics achieve max uber charge rates. One rocket on yourself and a quick switch will have the medic building that uber in no time. It'll take a while before you get your overheal back, and with it, your medic can easily get 50 to 60% uber charge in a little less than 20 seconds flat in a single full heal. You don't even need to constantly keep switching between weapons. As long as you have it out, you'll always keep the slow healing and help medics out in a pinch. But what about that mark for death? If an enemy pops out, you're going to feel the raw end of the deal with that extra mini crit damage. As long as you're paying attention and switch back to your primary or secondary weapons, the mark for death only lingers for an additional second before leaving the user. It can be risky, but overall 1 second isn't a lot of time, at least not enough for people to make devastating plays. You're pretty much safe for the most part, and you can help both yourself and your team substantially with just one weapon. Because the upside is phenomenal in curing one of Soldier's greatest weaknesses, for the most part anyways, and the massive amount of utility both for yourself and your team, this weapon goes above the Market Gardener. The ridiculous amount of use the escape plan has is insane and pretty much the go-to melee for a ton of soldier mains out there. It counteracts a huge weakness and makes your in-game abilities for the soldier that much stronger. If you couldn't get enough of the pickaxe, Madco has another one just for you. Introducing the OC Do Not Steal Escape Plan 2.0, the Equalizer. This menstruated replica takes the mechanics from the escape plan and adds its own little twist to it. Instead of receiving a speed boost when active, depending on your health of course, the damage increases as the user becomes injured. That's right, the less health you have, the more damage you'll do. However, as a hidden downside, you don't start off with the standard 65 damage per swing. No. If that were the case, it'd just be a better stock shovel. You start off with 33 damage per swing, ranging to a whopping 107 damage per hit. That's really something, ain't it? But the health dependency mechanic isn't the only thing this weapon took from the escape plan. The downside of having 90% less healing from medic sources while active comes back into the mix, making this the ultimate original weapon of every soldier's dreams. Same size, same shape, just a reskin by the looks of it. Why can't other reskins of the game get their own custom stats too? Anyways, I'm getting off topic. The main mechanic with this weapon is that you can get more damage with this melee the lower your health is. However, that in of itself is a big flaw for someone like the soldier. Starting off with 33 damage per hit can't kill 125 health classes without hitting them 4 times first. Anything higher in health requires even more to achieve the kill, which is really redundant and not realistic in the slightest. The soldier is too slow and too bulky to even get the chance to pull off multiple hits at a time. He needs decent damage in order for it to be virtually possible to get any melee kills. Like the Market Gardener's possible 195 damage per swing. If you want to match the standard 65 damage to begin with, you need to be at half health. Having to go down that low to achieve the usual is a downside that strays too far from survivability and is too risky to do something you should already be doing in the first place. You might as well write minus 50% max HP on the weapon and remove the whole damage mechanic to begin with at this rate. However, when you go lower than 50% HP, you start to do between 65 to 107 damage per hit, depending on how much lower your health actually is. This might be decent for a last resort tactic, but it still won't one-shot kill anything. Anybody in their right mind would rather just escape than go for something so reckless. After all of that, I can safely say that you shouldn't use the Equalizer for damage, not even below 50% HP. It's safer to retreat and heal up than recklessly go in for a melee kill that ultimately means nothing if you go down with it. This is starting to look like an absolute nightmare, much like a lot of the OCs on the internet, but there might be some saving grace after all. There is still the 90% less healing from medics while active, and much like the escape plan, is an excellent way to build uber fast. But have you noticed? There's no mark for death on the weapon at all. You can build uber with the medic with absolutely no risk and reap the rewards for the rest of your team. The utility is that of the escape plan, helping medics build uber charge quickly, which is invaluable for team play. The utility shines far more than the damage, and the accessible uber building ability is easy and without risks. Even though the damage may be a turnoff, having increased damage at low health can still be a decent last resort strategy that I've seen work multiple times. You can even use it like the Market Gardener and bomb on in, lowering your HP as you ascend as a sort of finishing blow to anyone that's running away or is very low on health. Because the damage still has somewhat of a use, despite it giving off bad habits for soldier mains, and an incredible utility that beats out increased capture rates and tediously annoying uber building strategies, this weapon goes above the half Satoichi. Surprising, isn't it? Utility far outweighs damage when it comes to soldier melees, and even the damage mechanics this weapon provides isn't that bad for last resorts. Perhaps not all OCs are that bad, but it's recommended you use it for its utility over its damage for the best results. These pickaxes are really starting to hurt my brain. Luckily, we're on to our last weapon. Last but certainly not least, the Disciplinary Action. Aside from the many crazy melee weapons we've seen thus far, this one takes it down a notch with some nice and easy to understand statistics. When hitting an ally, you both receive a boost in movement speed for several seconds. Some classes vary on how much speed they receive, but each class has a significant change in speed when hit. The soldier's speed boost is a couple of seconds longer to maintain your own slower speed and catch up with others for consistent swings, making this a great utility weapon for rollouts and aggressive plays. The downside, however, is that there is a 25% damage penalty on the weapon, turning the normal 65 damage into 49 per hit. Even though your damage is relatively low, the range at which you can hit allies and opponents alike is 70% longer than normal, giving the soldier a ton of distance to safely hit enemies and allies multiple times without any risk. There's nothing like whipping your team back into shape, quite literally in fact. The extra speed for your team will get any and all teammates to the front line quicker. Whether it be a rollout, a retreat, or a respawn, it's perfect for any occasion. You can even whip a teammate to then rocket jump directly after and have a speed boost to home in on unsuspecting targets from a large distance. It's a pretty nifty utility weapon that gets your teammates where they need to be and executes strategies more frequently than having to take a long walk of shame back to your position. But what about that damage penalty? Don't you remember? Damage isn't the main thing with soldier melees. Sure, 49 damage isn't the greatest thing in the world, but the extended range of the melee makes it so that enemies that also try to melee you or run away get a free spanking for trying to pull a fast one on you. Not to mention, this is a fantastic finishing melee weapon. Pull a quick rocket and land a quick whip right after to finish up your target. If they try to run, your extended range is massive. There's no way they're gonna get away. I mean, you could just use your primary or secondary to finish up, but the usefulness of the range far outweighs the damage penalty and is quite noticeably present at that. But primarily, the damage penalty is mainly there to remind you that you should be using this on teammates and use it for its primary function, the speed boosts. Getting your team that rush of adrenaline will give them the speed boost both in-game and mentally to get the job done. There's nothing like a rush of speed in a video game. No wonder people like playing Scout. Because of the immaculate use the speed boost has with the rest of your team, and the huge range this melee has for risk-free and clean-up hits, this weapon goes above the Market Gardener. The speed boost is fantastic. It's a unique ability that the team needs to get them back on their feet and back into position. Uber building, intense damage, and cap rates are fine, but I mean faster team speeds can help make up for the cap rates. The market garner's damage is situational with a big skill gap, and overall medics can get their charge from a multitude of different things. The speed boost is unique in its own right and has a great team building practice that will benefit you and your teammates alike. And those are the best and worst soldier melee weapons. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you want to see more of these types of informational videos, leave a like and subscribe to let me know. Remember to be awesome, stay awesome, and to have an awesome day. I'm Rob the Awesome, and I'll see you guys later. Ciao for now.
Motherfucker, I'm awesome. No, you're not, dude. Don't lie. I'm awesome. I'm driving around in my mom's ride. I'm awesome. A quarter of my life gone by, and I met all my friends online. Motherfucker, I'm awesome. I will run away from a brawl. I'm awesome. There's no voicemail, nobody calls. I'm awesome. I can't afford to buy 8 balls, and I talk to myself on my Facebook wall. You know my pants sag.